In this session, we are going to learn how to call stored procedures by using Jdbc callable statement with MySQL database. At the end of this session, you will be able to create a stored procedure in MySQL database, implement Jdbc callable statement to call stored procedure which returns a result set, and calling stored procedure which has in, out, and in-out parameters. To create a stored procedure in MySQL database, we need to create a table as per the example given here. In this example, the table name is an employee and there are three fields: employee ID, name and department. Once the table is created, then we need to create a stored procedure based on the example given here. In this example, the stored procedure is created in the name get details to retrieve the data from the table employee. To create a stored procedure in MySQL with the help of MySQL Workbench, open MySQL Workbench. Then click on MySQL connections and provide your user credentials. Once it is connected with MySQL database, then already you people know that how to create a database in MySQL and tables in MySQL. So I already created a database in the name KLU. Now I'm going to use the same database to create a table employee for demonstration purpose. So choose tables, right click, use the option create table. The table name is employee and create three fields: employee ID, data type integer, make it as a primary key and not null value, then employee name, varchar 45 is okay. Next create department, varchar 45. Then apply, it generates a query, create table in the database KLU. Table name is an employee with three fields: employee ID, name and department. Here employee ID will be the primary key. Then apply, it executes the query. Once it is finished, click on finish button. Now you can view the table here. Employee is available. Next, try to insert some data manually, then only we can able to understand the concept of calling stored procedures by using a callable statement. So that I'm going to insert some data into the table employee. First, retrieve the data which is available in the table employee by executing the select query. Select star from table name employee. So use this icon to execute the query. We need to mention the database schema name, end with semicolon, then execute. It will retrieve the details available in the table employee. So as of now, the table is an empty. Now I'm going to enter some details. So I entered four records with employee ID 10001 to 1004. Now I'm going to store this information into the table employee, so that I'm going to use the option apply. It generates a insert query based on the inputs I entered here. Then apply, it executes the query, finish. One more time you try to execute the SQL query, then we can understand that the information are stored permanently in the table employee or not. So click on the execute button, it retrieves the data from the table employee. So now the employee table has four records. Out of four, three employee belongs to CSE department and one employee belongs to EC department. So then this is then I'm going to create a stored procedure. To create a stored procedure in the database schema, you can find stored procedures. So right click on it, use the option create stored procedure. By default, it generates a syntax. Okay, in that I'm going to replace the procedure name as get details. Okay, then here I'm going to write select query to retrieve all the data from the table employee. End with semicolon. So then apply it. Yeah, it generates the exact code to create a stored procedure in MySQL database. Use KLU, that means it creates a stored procedure in the database scheme KLU, and a draw procedure if exists get details. One, if already the get details stored procedure in the name get details is available, first it deletes the existing one, then it creates new stored procedure in the name get details. Then apply, finish. Now you can see the stored procedure get details under the stored procedures. So now I'm going to implement a Jdbc callable statement to call the stored procedure and display the results. Next, we are going to implement a Jdbc callable statement to call the stored procedure which returns a result set. First, we need to create a connection object. Then we need to prepare a procedure call and callable statement object with the help of prepare call method. Then we need to execute the stored procedure by using the method execute query. Finally, the method will return a result set. So open Red Hat Code Ready Studio, go to File, create a new Maven project, click on Next and apply a filter like Maven archetype quick start. Once it retrieves the architecture type, there we need to select the Maven archetype quick start version 1.4 from Apache Maven archetype. Yes. Now we need to select Maven archetype quick start 1.4. Then click next. Provide the details of group ID, project name, and version package. Now I'm going to name it as JDBC callable statement. Yes. Jdbc callable statement. If you want to change the package, you can change. Then finish. It creates a directory structure based on the architecture type which we selected. Now we can explore the directory structure in the Project Explorer. Then open a form.xml file. Upgrade the compiler version from 1.7 to 1.8. Both compiler source and target of Maven compiler. Next, we need to add a dependency for MySQL connection. So this is the place to add dependency for MySQL connector. Find out the dependency from the Maven repository. So I already explained how to find repository for MySQL connector. Just visit the website mbnrepository.com, then search MySQL connector. So this is the link that we can find the dependency details for MySQL connector. So click on the link MySQL connector/j and choose the latest version 8.0.29. This is the dependency details. Copy those details and paste it in your form.xml file under dependencies. Okay, then save all, close the file form.xml and update the project by right click on the project root directory, go to Maven update project. Click OK. Once the updating process is done, then you can explore Maven dependencies. There you can see the jar file for MySQL connector Java version 8.0.29. Then we are going to implement a JDBC callable statement to call the stored procedure which we created in the MySQL database using MySQL Workbench. So then go to the build path, source main Java, expand it. There we can see the package name. Then there we can find the name app.java. Just open the file. So now we are going to implement JDBC callable statement to call the stored procedure. First import the package, import java.sql.abstract. Okay, then add throws exception, throws exception. Then create string object for URL, connection URL, initialize with the value jdbc colon mysql colon double slash localhost colon port number 3306 slash the database name KLU. So this is the database I created in the MySQL by using MySQL Workbench. There I created table in the name employee. Once go to MySQL Workbench, the database name is KLU. There the table is created in the name employee with three columns, employee ID, name and department. And the stored procedure is created in the name get details. Okay, then we need to create username. So the default username for MySQL server is root. Then create password. This is the password which I entered during installing MySQL database in my laptop. So you have to provide your own password for MySQL database. Then create object for the connection and initialize the object with the help of driver manager dot get connection method and pass these three parameters URL, username and then password. So now the connection object is created successfully. Then I'm going to create a callable statement object. So callable statement and initialize the callable statement with the help of connection dot prefer call. So here we need to call the stored procedure. So this is the syntax to call a stored procedure. Procedure name is get details. So callable statement is created and prefer a procedure call for the stored procedure get details. So next I'm going to create object for the result set. Because the stored procedure get details will return the details available in the table employee. So that will be handled by the result set. So create object for result set rs equal to statement dot execute query. So this method will execute the stored procedure and retrieve the data from the table employee. Next, with the help of loop, so I'm going to retrieve the details is available in the object rs result set. So here the next method will return a boolean value. If the result set object has a data, it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So inside the while loop, I'm going to write a output statement. system.out.println with the help of result set object, I try to get the data from the employee table. So there are three columns. Once go to Mysql Workbench, there are three columns available in the table employee, employee ID, name and department. In this, employee ID is defined as an integer, name and department is defined as varchar. So I'm going to use getInt method to retrieve the value of employee ID. It is from the column number 1. So now I'm going to concatenate a space or /t we can use. Along with I'm going to retrieve the details of employee name. It is defined as varchar so that we can use the method getString. The column number is 2. Then concatenate a /t and retrieve value from the third column department. Rs dot department is also defined as a varchar, so we can use the method getString and column number 3 end with semicolon. So then next to the while loop, we need to close the connection with the help of close method. So now the implementation is over. Now I'm going to execute this code. So right click on the editor, choose the option run as Java application. Yeah, it retrieves the data from the table by calling the stored procedure getDetails. The previous example, we create a stored procedure in the name getDetails without any parameter. So now we are going to work with the stored procedure with parameters. There are three types of parameters are possible while creating a stored procedure. One is in, out and in, out. We should understand the difference between in, out and in, out. First, in parameters are used to pass arguments to the stored procedure. The out parameters are used to return value from the stored procedure. And the third category, in out, it can be the combination of in and out parameters so that we can use these type of parameters to pass value and also return value from the stored procedure. The basic syntax of defining a parameter in stored procedure is given here. We must use the keyword in, out or in, out based on the parameter type we are going to define. Then followed by a parameter name and data type with length. Yeah, now we can understand how to call stored procedure with the in parameters. First, we need to create a stored procedure in MySQL database with the in parameter. Next, we need to establish a connection to the MySQL server by creating a connection object. Then we need to prepare a procedure call and create callable object with the help of prepare call method. Next, pass all the parameters to the stored procedure with the help of set methods. Finally, execute the stored procedure by calling the execute query method. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to call the stored procedure which has in parameter type. So before that we need to create a stored procedure in the MySQL database. So already we have one database getDetails without any parameters. Now I'm going to create one more stored procedure with in parameter. So repeat the same process to create a stored procedure. Choose stored procedure here, right click, then create stored procedure, replace the name, get details by employee ID. I named the procedure as get details by employee ID. So in the parameter, I'm going to create a parameter for type in, and the parameter name is ID. The data type is integer. So here I'm going to retrieve the data. from the table employee with condition where employee ID equal to the in parameter. So while creating a parameter, I mentioned the parameter name as ID, so that I'm going to use ID here. So now this is the stored procedure which we created based on the in parameter type. So this procedure will return the details of an employee whose employee ID is matched with the parameter. So then apply, again apply, finish. Now you can see one more stored procedure here. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to call the stored procedure with the in parameter. So create a new Java class in the same package. So right click on the package name, go to the option new, then choose class. I named it as in param demo, and choose public static void main, then finish. It creates a new Java class in the same package. So here I'm going to implement the stored procedure call with in parameter. So first we need to create object for the connection class. Initialize with driver manager dot get connection. So here we need to pass three parameters: connection URL, username, and then password. So the connection URL is jdbc colon mysql colon / localhost colon the port number 3306 and the database name KLU. So username is root and password for MySQL database in my laptop PWD at 1292. So end with semicolon. So connection object is created. We need to handle the exception by handling throws exception with the main method. So next we need to create object for the callable statement. So choose callable statement in that list, create object. Initialize with the help of connection object con dot prefer call method. Okay, so here we need to define a stored procedure call. The stored procedure name we recently created in the MySQL is get details by employee ID. Get details by employee ID. So this stored procedure has one in parameter. So that I'm going to place a question mark in the parameter. Okay, next I'm going to pass parameter to the stored procedure. So by using the object of callable statement dot set, call the method set int, because I'm going to pass employee ID. Employee ID is defined as an integer. So while creating a stored procedure in the parameter type, I mentioned the integer data type only, so that I'm going to pass one comma, that means first parameter. The value for the parameter is 1002 something. So it retrieves the data from the table employee whose employee ID matched with the parameter value 1002. So then we need to create object for result set or s equal to use the object of callable statement dot call the method execute query. So then create a while loop. create a while loop to retrieve data from the stored procedure. So add system.out.println. So retrieve the details from the update rs dot get int. So employee ID defined as an integer, comma, concatenate a space slash t. Then rs dot get string, because name is defined as string, it is column number 2, and concatenate a slash t. rs dot get department, that is also defined as string, so we can use the method get string column number 3. Okay, so finally we need to close the connection. So now we can execute this code, save. For that, save all, right click on the editor, go to the option run as Java application. So now it retrieves the details of the employee whose employee ID matched with the input value. Next, calling stored procedure with out and in out parameter. First, we need to create a stored procedure with out or in out parameter. Next, we need to establish a connection by creating a connection object to MySQL server. Then we need to prefer a stored procedure call and create callable statements based on the example given here. In addition to that, we need to register the type of out parameters with the help of register out parameter method. This method takes two arguments. First argument is the sequence of the parameter, and the second one is data type of the parameter. At the end, we need to execute the stored procedure by using the method execute, not execute query. With the help of execute method, we can execute because the stored procedure returns some value. So now open your Red Hat Code Ready Studio. So before that, create a stored procedure in the Mysql Workbench. So open Mysql Workbench. Under the stored procedure, now I'm going to create a stored procedure in the name get details by out param. So the parameter type is out, parameter name is count, data type is integer. So here I'm going to write a query, select count of asterisk into the output parameter count from table employee. So this is the query. It returns the total number of records available in the table employee, and the value, the result of the query will be assigned to the output parameter count. So finally the procedure will return number of records available in the employee to the called program. So finally, the stored procedure will return number of records available in the table employee to the calling program through the output parameter count. So next, I'm going to implement the same in the Red Hat Code Ready Studio. So create one more Java class in the same package. So right click on the package name, go to the option new, choose class. I named it as out param demo. Include public static void method, then finish. It creates a new Java file in the same package. So here we can implement the Jdbc callable statement to call the stored procedure which as output parameter. So first establish a connection by creating a connection object equal to driver manager dot get connection. We need to pass the connection URL jdbc mysql / localhost 1 / 2 / 3 / 4 / 5 / 6 / 7 / 8 / 9 / 10 / 11 / 12 / 13 / 14 / 15 / 16 / 17 / 18 / 19 / 20 / 21 / 22 / 23 / 24 / 25 / 26 / 27 / 28 / 29 / 30 / 31 / 32 / 33 / 34 / 35 / 36 / 37 / 38 / 39 / 40 / 41 / 42 / 43 / 44 / 45 / 46 / 47 / 48 / 49 / 50 / 51 / 52 / 53 / 54 / 55 / 56 / 57 / 58 / 59 / 60 / 61 / 62 / 63 / 64 / 65 / 66 / 67 / 68 / 69 / 70 / 71 / 72 / 73 / 74 / 75 / 76 colon the port number 3306 and the database is employee, sorry, KLU, comma, password to the MySQL database is root and MySQL database password. So we need to handle the exception. Okay, so connection object is created. Next, I'm going to create object for callable statement equal to connection dot prefer call with the syntax to call the stored procedure. The stored procedure name which we created in the MySQL Workbench is still it is not yet applied, not yet created. So then apply, again apply, finish. Now you can see that the stored procedure is available here. Get details by out param. So this is the stored procedure name. Get details by out param. So I'm going to use the same name. It has one output parameter. So call get details by out param. It has only one output parameter. So place a question mark here. Okay, so now the callable statement is created successfully. Next, I'm going to register the parameter. So use the callable statement object dot call the method register output parameter. We need to pass two parameters to the method register output parameter. First one is the sequence order of the output parameter defined in the stored procedure call. So the stored procedure call is created. The stored procedure in MySQL is created with only one output parameter. So the sequence is one. The data type of the parameter is integer. Okay, then we need to execute the stored procedure with the help of callable statement object dot and call the method execute, not execute query. Call the method execute. It executes the stored procedure. Now we need to get the result from the stored procedure. So in declare one temporary variable for the data type integer count equal to use the object of callable statement dot this stored procedure will return a output parameter. That output parameter is defined as an integer so that we can use getInt method from a statement dot getInt of 1. Finally, help of output statement system dot out dot println just print number of row present in employee table. Display the value of CNP. End with semicolon. Finally, we need to close the connection. So con close. End with semicolon. So then save. Right click on the editor. Go to the option Run as Java application. It returns number of row present in employee table 4. So let us verify in the workbench. The select start from KLU employee. It retrieves the data from the table employee. There are 4 rows, 2, 3 and 4. Next, I'm going to demonstrate how to create stored procedure with in-out parameter and call the same by using the Jdbc callable statement. So create one more stored procedure in the MySQL Workbench. So open MySQL Workbench, right click on the stored procedure, create new stored procedure and named it as get details. get details by in out. I named it as get details by in out param. So I'm going to define parameter type in out. Some name we can use in out. Okay. ID data type integer. So here I'm going to write a query. Select count of asterisk into the in-out parameter ID from the table employee where employee ID matched with the in-out parameter ID. So by using the in-out parameter ID, we can pass value to the stored procedure and also return value from this stored procedure. So that I am using the ID to return a value and also I read the value from the in-out parameter ID. So this query returns a number of row matched with the employee ID based on the in-out parameter. So then apply by finish. So the stored procedure is created. The name get details by in out param. So this is the stored procedure name. Now open Red Hat Code Ready Studio. Create one more Java class by choosing the package name. Go to the option new. Add a new class. Yeah. So this is for in out param demo. Include public static void main, then finish. Here we can implement Jdbc callable statement to call the stored procedure with as in out param. So create a connection object and connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection. The first parameter is the connection URL Jdbc colon mysql colon MySQL Jdbc colon MySQL colon double slash localhost and the port number 3306 slash the database name ALU and the second parameter is the username root and third parameter is a password for MySQL server. So now the section connection object is created. We need to handle the exception throws exception. Okay. Next, I'm going to create object for callable statement equal to initialized with the help of connection object dot prefer called. Here we need to define a syntax to call the stored procedure. Call and the stored procedure name get details by in out param. It has only one parameter, so paste one question mark and close. So now the callable statement is created. Next I am going to register the output parameter by using the object of callable statement and call the method register output parameter. There is only one output parameter, so the sequence is 1 and the type of the output parameter is integer. So type dot integer. So output parameter is register. Now we can execute the stored procedure. So object of callable statement dot execute. So then, okay, before executing, we need to pass parameter to the stored procedure because the parameter defined as in out. We can use the parameter type to passing values to the stored procedure and also retrieve value from the stored procedure. So I'm going to pass the value statement dot set int the first parameter. The sequence number is 1 and the value is 1002. Statement.execute, it calls the stored procedure get details by inout parameter with parameter value 1002. So the stored procedure will return number of records matched with the value 1002 via the same parameter in out. So now we need to retrieve the value, so that I am going to create a temporary variable int count equal to statement dot get int of 1, get int of 1. Then with the help of output statement, out dot println. So here I am going to write a message, number of row present in employee table or the employee ID equal to 1002 for the employee ID along with the value of count. For the employee ID 1002 plus result which we received from the stored procedure. Then close the connection. So then save and run this code. Okay, we got the result. Number of row present in employee table for the employee ID 1002 is 1. So here we can give some space so that we can understand. Yes. Number of row present in employee table for the employee ID 1002 is 1.